Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with another Votann video. People have been requesting the last two videos in the series to be done in my comments over the previous week, so I thought it would be a good idea if I would try and bash out the last of the Votann playlist before the new year. So I'm going to hit you today with the Iron Master, which is the second last video in the series. I'm going to show you how to bend that guy up quickly and easily. And then hopefully next week I will get my hands on those Berserkers and get them painted up for you, and that will be the entire playlist fully done for the Leagues of Votann. Stick around guys and enjoy the video. Okay, and here is the Iron Master. It got the normal treatment for me, which is the spray of Chaos Black and then a coat of Grey Seer spray on top of that. I started with Space Wolves Grey Contrast for his undersuit slash fatigues. On this model it shows a little bit more than a standard Votann line trooper on the front, but on the back obviously covered up entirely by his jacket. This guy's definitely wearing less armor than a standard Votann. Obviously he's a mechanic, not a front line soldier. That doesn't mean he doesn't like getting stuck in, having a good fight, but I wouldn't say he's definitely dressed for it. That stage is always kind of hard to see on a model, but it's an important step for building up that blue coat. Blood Angels Red is the base coat I use for all of my Votann power armor. And of course we will carry that onto this guy so he blends nicely with the army. So realistically all he has is his knee pads, and then he has like an upper chest piece of armor that goes around the back of his head. So obviously it's like a bit of flak armor protecting him and his core. So just get a nice coat of Blood Angels Red contrast on that. Obviously this model is mostly made up of kind of jacket and pouches and backpack, lots of browns. We're gonna have to break those up a little bit. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go for Gorgrunta Fur, which is a brown color that we haven't used across the Votann range so far, and we're gonna use that for his tool belt and backpack. These are obviously quite unique pieces to this miniature, and obviously one of his little robot attendants has something very similar, so we use the same color when painting that. And we'll basically base coat the two different brown parts of this miniature, two different brown contrasts, and then layer them up differently as well, which will hopefully pull them in separate directions. Now they will share the same shade during the same stage, the shade stage, so they will still match each other quite well. We're going to jump over to the other brown now, which is going to be Wyldwood, and that's for his big duster jacket. Quite like the Pioneer jet bikes have. This is a very dark brown contrast paint. I do bring it up a little bit when we get to the layering stage. I'll explain a little bit something I did different there as well, because it really wasn't working for me when I was doing it. Just a nice even coat of Wyldwood all across the jacket. After that we're going to go over to Black Templar, and we're going to use this for parts like his boots. He has some cabling coming down from his armor that wraps around the kind of sides of his chest, so we're going to get them with a little bit of black paint as well. And then of course the casing of his rifle. So I'm not sure which parts of his rifle are meant to be silver and which bits are supposed to be black just yet. So what I decided to do is basically give the entire rifle a base coat of black. He's also wearing black gloves. So the fact that I was doing the entire rifle in black made it very easy to just kind of throw that coat of paint on and not have to worry about kind of going around his fingers and making sure I don't hit them or anything like that. Okay, after the black has been applied, we're going to use Guilliman Flesh. This is a very, very quick stage, as there's literally, I don't know, like 3x3 millimeter of skin showing on the entire miniature. So just a bit of Guilliman Flesh on the skin. And then we went for Iron Hand Steel, Lead Belcher, or Iron Warrior. Any one of the dark silvers will work for this as a base coat for all the metallic parts. Now this is one of the stages where you really need to take your time, bring up some reference pictures, because he's got a lot of little buckles, a lot of little kind of loops, different parts of his weapon, his night vision goggles. You know what I mean? There's just a lot of bits that you don't want to miss any of them whilst you're base coating in with all of the metallic parts. Even I was surprised by the amount of little bits and pieces that are on him. Okay, and with that we have all of the base coats on, and it's time to shade the model. Just like all the other Votann, we're going to use Reikland Fleshshade for this, so all the tones match across an entire army. And we're just going to apply a nice coat of this all over the model, every single part, all the browns, all the blues, silvers, skin, everything. I didn't specifically talk about how I painted the beard on this guy during this video. Obviously a beard can be any color you want. There's no point in me showing you how to paint a, brown beard if you're going to paint them black, or a black beard if you're going to paint them kind of ginger. For some reason I like doing all my Votann with ginger beards, so I did a contrast orange, and I will layer it up with a little bit of Tusk or for Doombull brown afterwards, and that's it. Thunderhawk Blue was used to highlight all of those undersuit parts that we did the fang. Like I said, those parts are really hard to see during the contrast stage. As you can see, they pop nicely during the layering stage. You can see what parts they are, and it only takes a couple of seconds to layer them up. Being careful not to hit any of the other parts of the miniature. This is once again an example of that whole painting from the outside, from the inside out. Get that right. So it makes it easier to not hit other parts. It's time for the first of 2 layers on the power armor. So we're going to start with Mephiston Red for the first coat. And as you can see, I'm being quite careful with the layering job. I want to leave all those nice shadows in all of the crevices and all those nice dark lines. I want to leave those in place and just hit all the flatter parts and panel work with the Mephiston Red. After that's done, we're going to jump up to Evil Sunz Scarlet and basically do exactly the same thing, but less. So a little bit further down the panel, a little bit closer to the edges. We want to basically highlight that last stage of red, just to make it pop a little bit more. That of those red parts highlighted, nice and simple. It does show you, give you the idea of how little red is on this, considering the exosuits that we did for this army were 99% that red color, and then we jump over to a miniature like this, which has very little. It's kind of crazy. From here, we're going to go into Mournfang Brown, and we're going to use this to layer up his tool belt, his backpack, and all of the bits that we layered up with the Gorgrunt of Fur at the start of this video. This color match works really well. Gorgrunt of Fur highlighted with Mournfang Brown. It gives a really nice color, and it works a treat. When I came to layering up the jacket, that's when I think I hit the only kind of snag that I felt when I was painting this miniature, because I think I jumped up to Rhinox hide straight away, and I layered up his duster jacket. And I mean, it was nice, but it was still, I felt, too dark and too flat, and it wasn't really showing up the way I wanted it to. So, especially not the way that this Mournfang is doing for the Gorgrunta. But this is giving me a really pleasant result. I like it, how it's turning out. I think the brown on the jacket was just too dark. So what ended up happening was there was some Mournfang Brown left on my palette with my Dryad bark, or with my Rhinox hide, sorry. So I ended up mixing in a touch of the Mournfang Brown into that mix just to brighten it up. So as you can see here, I'm layering it up and it's still staying quite dark. It's just that kind of pure chocolate brown color. And it just really wasn't doing it for me. So like I said, I mixed in a bit of the Mournfang Brown just to add a little bit of an extra kind of color, a bit of brightness, a bit of contrast to it. And then I started layering it up again. And after that, I was really happy with the result. It really stood out more to me. Corvus Black was what I used to layer the black parts. So the extra bits on the rifle, the tubing on his chest, and his boots. He obviously has gloves as well, so don't forget to do those on both hands. I also got the base finished on the model in between some stages there. I think the power of editing, magic editing, has made the base suddenly be done, which obviously neatens up the model immensely. From there, we're going to jump up to Ironbreaker and layer up all the metallic parts, like I always do. Even add in some of the metallic parts that I missed. So some of the tools on this belt where I didn't actually get anything metallic on first because I missed them. I go in, add a little highlight. No one will really notice them on the belt, or notice that you didn't put too much effort in. They'll be too busy focusing on like the night vision goggles on his head, his big rifle and his hammer to notice the screwdriver or the wrench on his belt. Does that make sense? When people pick up and look at your miniatures, they do not focus on every little part. After this, we're going to use Cadian Fleshtone to layer up the face. This is a very quick stage. Like I said, it's only a very small bit of skin showing. So tips of the nose, eyebrows, cheeks, bottom lip. That's all you can get to. And you just need this tiny little highlight. Like literally a couple of brush strokes does it for the face. From there, we're going to use Tallarn Sand. This is an extra random color. He's got a handkerchief hanging out of one of his pockets, or an old rag, which like any mechanic or tinker would have in a workshop. And there's obviously got his bedroll on the top of his backpack. So we're just going to layer this up with Tallarn Sand paint really quickly. Just as an extra step, nothing crazy. Once again, it'll have to break up the quantity of brown that's on this miniature. I know it's still a brown color, but you know what I mean. After that, I grabbed that pure white, whatever pure white you're comfortable with, and I base coated all the bits on this miniature that I want to be glow. So all the lenses on his night vision goggles, the Iron Man bit in the center of his chest, the glowing rune on his hammer, and some of his rifle. I don't know what his rifle's called. I keep calling it rifle because I actually don't know what he's carrying. Like, it looks kind of like a mini conversion beamer or something. But I basically decided myself that the power cell at the back is going to glow, and then the whole coil of the middle is going to glow as well. So we're going to base coat those in with the white. And after that's done, we're going to come in with the Tallarn Blue. After they're dry as well, make sure they're fully dry before you apply the stage. And they're going to get placed on top of all of the white parts of the miniature to really make them feel like they have that glow effect. This is the same color that I used across my entire Votann range. So all headlights, all lamps, all eye lenses all have this color, so they all match together. And it's such a quick and easy and effective way to do lenses on miniatures. And this is the last step that I'm going to do on my guy, and I'm going to call him finished from here. The final result is something like this. I myself, I'm pretty happy with the result and cannot wait to get his little robots painted up and take another unit off the Votann list. Okay guys, and there we have it, one Iron Master painted and ready for the tabletop. Obviously in this video I did not do his little robot attendants. I think if you have watched my Votann playlist through, it should be fairly easy to paint up those guys. You know how to do the red armor, you know, do the brown leather apron on some of them. You need to do all the metallic parts, any of the gold bits. You're kind of set on how to paint up those bits and pieces. So I don't think it was necessary to include them in this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give the video a like. Ask me any questions below in the comments and I will get back to each and every one of you guys. And if you love what I do and want to support me, the two best ways to do that is 1, make sure you're subscribed. And 2, check out my Patreon below. We're doing a big Patreon overhaul for January, so there has never been a better time to get involved. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of the video. I'll see you in the next one.